Welcome to the same old Sunday familiar event that you're used to. It's the House of Nerd Show featuring guests, except this time the guest is the host because our friends who are usually broadcasting at this hour are not available. They can't. They've got lives, they've got things to do, but they don't forget you and they say, hey, just because we can't be here doesn't mean the show can't be here. You know what to expect here at the House of Nerd Show. You know to expect some comic book chatter about independence. Mostly that's the focus of things. And if you've been paying attention, Chillmonger doesn't read independent comics books, but he did read this one. This is Creed. This is issue number 2 of Creed that came out recently. Or 1, I should say. Here's number 2, still in the plastic because I'm not prepared. And then issue number 3, which came out this Wednesday. Our friends over at Boom Studios do a service of letting us know about these comic books. Given we got some sort of a relationship here at House of Nerd Show, and yeah, I say we like I'm part of this, like I'm really a big deal over here. Not really, but issue number 3 is going to be the focus of this live stream for the most part, just to keep in the theme that this show is about, as well as the theme that I am about. Who am I? You've seen me a couple times chit-chatting here and there. You saw a photo of me and Sergio watching Blue Beetle together because we do both live in the same general city area. I am somebody who loves comic books. I call myself Chillmonger. I started this YouTube thing about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago in 2019, January of 2019. And since then, I've been covering stuff around Marvel, Black Panther, X-Men, stuff like that. I do dip into independence. I do talk movie chat. I did a whole lot of Creed stuff back when that was a movie that was in the theaters in March. No, it was in October. And I covered a lot of the stuff that Jonathan Majors has been, doing. Jonathan Majors, the guy who played Damian Anderson, the Creed villain in Creed number 3, was cool. They kind of went back in time to tell us the story of Adonis Creed and of him, of Damian growing up, and they gave us that. In this comic series, though, Creed, they do go back in time. There are going to be flashbacks, but what their focus is the Creed family. We do know that Apollo Creed died in the ring because of Drago. Everyone knows that. And then here comes Donnie. He gets married. But what about the other family members in Creed? Because while Adonis is the illegitimate child, we know that they had 2 legitimate children. Alexander Creed, who was not a boxer or nothing, and Artemis Creed, who was actually a boxer. And you wouldn't have known that unless you read Creed The Next Round. And that's what this series has been covering. The Next Round, not for Adonis, but for his daughter. And what they did here, if you guys remember, the daughter is someone with hearing impairments. And look, get the brand ready, and there we go. This is something that deals with somebody who is deaf. You see her up top and she's training and she's got 11 fight wins in a row and she's, somewhat significant. Adonis has no problem with training her, even though he isn't giving her the best of the best training. Look at that red flag or the red towel that he's got. He can't communicate with her in a fight. You can't do sign language to talk to somebody who's hearing impaired during a fight. But what they utilized was color, which is what the comic book world is for. If you thought that there was a handicap, which it is, I'm not diminishing that, of course. But if you think that that would play a part into this comic book, you'll quickly realize that all they've got to do is things like this for storytelling purposes, and it gets across. And I was wowed by the ability to do that. The inclusion of an underrepresented and maybe underserviced demographic of people, if that's what you could call people who are deaf. But they did that using art style. Now imagine you're somebody who's deaf. You've got a lot of pluses. You can walk. You're not as handicapped as some other places, at some other conditions. But what you do have also is the sight and the ability to read comic books. I never thought about how comic books would be a thing for the deaf community, but turns out you're not missing anything. Another trick that they do. Let me go to here. You see how the word bubbles don't really have the word balloons don't have a thick border of black. And I believe, after reading that, that's because that's the sign language. You can tell. You guys ever read a comic book with Thanos or something where the word balloon is a little bit different than it is for the regular characters? Well, when you're speaking in sign language over here, American Sign Language, ASL, or as they say here, it's BASL, you can see that the word balloons are a little bit different. I have no doubt that the finger signs that they're using over here, they are actually, they translate over. If we read the front page of the comic, it'll say that they wanted to give a special thanks. Well, first of all, it does say Michael B. Jordan is the creative director there, but then they also give a special thanks to somebody who has an expertise in Black American Sign Language, BASL. Does there need to be a Black American Sign Language? Did we really need to do that, people? Why? So we can have words like ain't and gotcha, which I noticed that they used here. Come on now. Come on, people. Why? What there should be, it's already difficult enough. There should be some uniform hand signs. And I hope that there are. I hope the BASL is just about the same as ASL with a couple of new words, but nothing that changes the foundation. Hey, if anyone's in here, I see I got people watching. Let me know what you think about the Creed series and if you've been reading the Creed series, because I don't want to have this conversation on my own. I'm going to show some more pages, okay, from the first issue. We'll get to the third issue and we'll build up there, but it was a quality story that happened here. Artemis, this is a former fighter, a former boxer, and she over here it finds her because Adonis Creed doesn't want to train her. Adonis Creed is too busy giving her, soft glove treatment. He doesn't want her to go find fights. So what she does is she goes to like this empty swimming pool where they have these underground fights, which are not really sanctioned or anything like that. So that's where they fight over. That's what she wanted to do. That's what young Amara Creed, the daughter of Adonis Creed, wanted to do to find competition. And then he says, fine, I'm just go to my sister. There's a lot of that. Okay, now that you're a female boxer and you've been treated poorly, you probably understand what I've been going through. And they repeat that in 3 issues. A little they did it too heavy-handedly. It wasn't smooth or anything. But there is that. How could Apollo Creed, living in America, have a daughter, make it, and it's really not that big of a deal that she did to do that? But then here comes little Adonis Creed, and he becomes world champion. He gets to enjoy the successes of it. That's kind of what her yeah, I am the Creed monger. I am the Creed monger. You can see the difference. By the way, I want you all to appreciate this background that I have. Here, you're going to see my audio. But I don't know. I didn't create that for nothing. So yeah, enjoy that. In this comic, we do get understanding of who Amara is. There's a subplot happening with Creed and the business dealings that he's doing because he's kind of done his career and I used to think it was just filler stuff, but no, it's going to matter towards the ending because there's not just one family member in the Creed family. So there we go. She links up with Amara, with Artemis. Here's Amara Creed. Now she's using her phone. You can see how the word balloon changes again. And that's another thing I love that comics can do, that we can see from the word balloon, just from a little bit more staticky lines that you draw. The words are coming out of the phone because she initiates text to speech mode enabled. And that's smooth. You see that handicap that used to exist that slows down movies doesn't exist in comic books. And that's utilizing the format to its benefit. And we have to give them credit for that. Sergio Gonzalez is in the building. Sergio, I heard of you. Definitely a cool guy. And that's issue number 1, just to build you up to the issue 3 that came out, which is probably at your local comic book shop stands as we speak now. In the 3rd issue, yes, there's more. There is training, and unfortunately, Adonis Creed is pretty upset that he went over to Auntie. Who was this Auntie? Do you know what happened in the Creed family? What happened was they found out that Apollo had a illegitimate child named Adonis, left him in the system. He was an orphan, and it was only the wife of Apollo Creed. But the 2 kids, they didn't care. They didn't care about anything at all when it came to their half brother Adonis Creed. So who's this Auntie that you're reaching out to? I don't know, man. The family drama stuff was not what we were getting in the movies. And what they did here is they said, listen, we're not just going to create new. This will be very adjacent to the movie franchise that you love. Some people might say that's to its detriment. Some people want something new. But to me, I don't see a pattern of it. If there was 7 Creed comic spinoffs and all 7 did this, I'd be you're complaining, but there's not really a problem here to just kind of swerve out and swerve in. Hey, you know this character? This is how it matters to the Creed franchise, the Rocky Creed franchise. I would like to see Rocky show up again, but maybe the studio and the beef that they have, which kept him from happening, Sylvester Stallone kept from Creed #3. Maybe that's going to play a part here. Did say "Hey Auntie," and I did notice that. And I did think about "Hey Auntie," which is the Creed, which nobody got in the Oscars when Angela Bassett didn't win her best supporting actress, and in comes Jonathan Majors and Michael B. Jordan, and they're like, "Hey Auntie." The audience didn't get that because they didn't get that stuff. "Hey Auntie" is an epic line. So I'm reading issue 2. Where did I put 2? Is it here? Is it here? I used to have issue 2. You guys saw it. I guess I'll just pull up the slides that I had prepared. He's upset about everything that she's been part of. Meanwhile, Bianca, the wife, is right in there. If I complain, I'd say that the hairstyles of the two, the wife and the daughter, they are too similar for my liking. I want to be able to tell different characters apart. And then there's also Artemis, who's, remember her up here? It feels like there's more hairstyles than just one people. So I would have changed the way that they drew too many similarities. Let's go back to Creed issue number 2, where yes, the deal is, if you can lay a punch on me, I'll be your trainer. She's not supposed to be here. Amara Creed is breaking her father's rules and doing it. So we do get the teenage, maybe she's older than a teenager now, maybe she's 20. The regular stuff that we know is going to happen when it comes to young people, okay? They're going to be a little disobedient to their family. This guy's got slides ready too, very polished. I'm impressed. You know how it is. You're impressed. You do the same thing. You encourages me to do this. So yes, she is going to lay a blow. And as you can see, the phone is still in the shot because they are communicating with each other and the phone needs to be there. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's super ridiculous. Because where did that phone come from, everybody? Was it in a pocket? Was it in her bra? Is that where the phone just popped out of into the floor? Was it in her hand maybe? Maybe it was in her hand. I don't see it in her hand. No. So like she had to use her hand for punching, right? So where's that phone that's just flying, gravityless? I don't know. It is a comic book. Maybe we're supposed to imagine there's a sci-fi reason for it. It got ridiculous. Trying to explain how they were communicating is crazy. They were fighting. All right. Amara Creed and her auntie kind of form something which brings the family together. That brings us to issue number 3 of Creed, which is out now. Let me read this live chat here. Sergio says, is this comic a direct tie-in to the films? Yes. In the beginning of the comic, there is a time skip. You're going to notice it says Los Angeles in year 2033. You see up there? Los Angeles 2033. So you're supposed to imagine that, the young deaf girl we all watched in the Creed film, from the third Creed film, she becomes older and she becomes a fighter. I would imagine that if they do a new film of Creed, it would happen right before this comic happens because Creed's not done boxing and we don't want him to be too old. Adonis Creed, I should say, just to be clear. Yeah, that's the thing. Michael B. Jordan plays a part in this. He's a big comic head, or at least he says he's a comic head. We got our doubts the way he was talking about Naruto, and he pronounced it Naruto Shippuden. It's called Naruto Shippuden, okay? Believe it. And so he's probably someone who did have, and it wasn't just his name was on it, he probably did have direction of what they do with the family members, and this is just his fan fiction coming to life. And the studios are like, yeah, whatever, do a little comic book. No one really cares. No one's going to get involved. Okay, the dead girl, eh? That's pretty cool. Can't even lie. The deaf girl, yes, the deaf girl. Autocorrect, bro. Said the dead girl, pretty cool. Katie Vick, anybody? I am on the 3rd issue now. And in the 3rd issue of Creed, we get to see a new character. This one's got a little bit of a mohawk, and they're watching her do her fight. Her fighting in the swimming pool with the graffiti in the background and everything. And she notices that, oh, is that you, Amara? I'm going to call you out, Amara. Come out here and fight me. You're next. Who the hell is this new villain? Good to know by issue number 3, since I think it's a 5-issue limited series. By issue number 3, we do know where this final battle is going and heading towards. It's good to know how it's going to end. There's going to be some punches, and there's going to be some climaxing. Crossover with Walking Dead. Yeah, I got you. What's happening with this new character is she has a familial tie also to Apollo Creed. Look at this old classic fighting that happened way back in the day. You see, that's the hammer. That's the family member that she is the linear of. Moses Pierce, the hammer. He has 34 wins, 0 losses, 0 no contests until he loses, until he is defeated. And who takes him out? Living in America. Take a guess who takes them out and why this is connected. This character that we just got introduced to, this woman, she's nothing but a product. Her right there with the mohawk. She is a product of the Apollo Creed, of a loss. And it shows you how in boxing, it doesn't matter in boxing how successful you were. That loss, that last time they see you, is the lasting memory of how they will see you. Unfortunately, guys, that's why they need to quit while they're on top, and they don't need to do these exhibition bouts and look worse and worse. And then they're in their 50s doing these charity matches, and no one's really in the crowd because they can't sell out the Las Vegas arena. They're probably in Atlantic City or something like that. There's just a difference. And we know that the loss can affect a fighter. She went through it. This grandfather of hers, once he lost his match, when she goes to school, hey, your daddy doesn't live here doesn't even live with you anymore. Your family isn't completely a lineage of failures. There's one thing that this kid says here to bully her. They still ain't found that fool, probably in Canada or Wakanda or somewhere. Everybody, we got to do something about maple phobia. That wasn't warranted at all. Sergio doesn't stand for it, and this House of Nerds show production doesn't. When they say, oh, your dad left, went to Canada, first of all, dad's father is leaving. That's a trope that's tired and needs to get rid of. But for that to happen and for that kid to say those words, I don't know what we're doing right here. We're instilling some nasty traits that we don't need to be reinforcing everybody. And I'm mostly mad at the Canada thing. I love what they're doing with the Moses family. Who the hell's the Moses Pierce family? I didn't even think about Apollo. Yep, that was Apollo. I could in that page, if I show you guys, that was definitely Apollo who was the one to take him out. And in the barbershop, when guys are talking, they're referencing Apollo Creed for whooping him. You see him in the background there? That's Apollo. Oh, no, I'm wrong. There, that's the page there where they show his loss record, 35-1 for Moses Pierce. That's Apollo up top. And they'll talk about it later on. So, great info. Yeah, it was there. Unless I'm reading it wrong, the people at the barbershop in one of the other flashbacks. Oh, it's not focused on my face. Hold on. I'll leave the studio and come back. Hold on. Terribly sorry about that. It's focused on me now. So that's the thing. Here we go. She's fighting now. Amara is. And Michael B, or Adonis, is really surprised with what she's been able to do. You know what? She's learning that from her auntie. It's Artemis teaching her that exact uppercut. And in there, scouting is Artemis. Artemis was present, as well as the villain of the comic book series, who was the Hammer Pierce granddaughter. She was also in this comic book, also in the crowd watching. A lot of this subplot, a lot of the subplot doing with Donnie, doing with the business relationships, that all comes into fruition here. And that's what makes issue number 3 the best of the 3 issues. You see, all the business dealings he's trying to do, they just got bought out. They thought they were forming this relationship, but they got bought out by somebody by the name of Alexander Creed. And that is why I like it. Every time I see these covers and I see like someone in the background and it looks all mystic and stuff, I thought, well, whatever, it's just cool. Nah, bro. I thought I was looking at Apollo Creed this whole time. They were just kept on showing Alexander Creed, who kind of looks like him. And he's been the one sponsoring this new fighter, this new hammer fighter over here. They did something ridiculous where, okay, we're going to just talk it out. I'm going to find you. And she goes to the sandwich shop that this new villain is at. Do you see what's happening on screen here? They're communicating. and they're not using a telephone. It turns out that this villainous person was like a Girl Scout, and she knew ASL this whole time. She knew it. Yeah, man, I learned a few things. What? You don't underestimate me. That was weak. Just how commonplace is this language? That while it was necessary for these next few pages that they could talk to each other and get some things across, when really it's things we already got across. You're a woman, you're in boxing, you're less respected, you got to defend your family, me too. That's all they were talking about. But that was very ridiculous of an ask. Who wrote this comic book? You're going to get all the credit for that. The writer was LaToya Morgan and J. Jameson. Come on, man. That was hard to believe that this villain magically also speaks this language that less than 1% of people in LA are speaking. All right. If I'm going to sow complaints, I can't just give everything praise all the time. Flash by Night, which comics you reading these days? I guess he's reading Creed. But Creed, the final page that I had prepared for you was this one here. So don't come for me unless I call. Apollo Creed, once he learns that his sister, his half-sister, Artemis Creed, is also part of that exact company that has bought out what he was doing. He shows up to Artemis. Artemis, what the hell's going on here? You are partially an owner. Artemis like, what are you talking about? I have no idea. Why are you speaking in riddles? Here, suit up. And they just start fighting. These hotheads. You can't call anybody a baby Creed. You can't. These Creeds are hotheads. That's just the nature that they are. And then a sister and a brother are fighting each other and throwing punches. And Amara also sees it, and she's saying, "Stop fighting with their hands." So she says, "They're fighting with their hands." All right. I don't know. I think of how hopeless you are if something like that ever happens, and I think you do have a voice and you can make noises. You just wouldn't know what to do, right? That's she's vocalizing, she's making noises, and she gets them to stop. A sister and a brother fighting. That's a risk I don't think DC or a Marvel would take, would they? But for some reason in Boom that they were okay with showing that. A big muscly man and a woman, even though she is a trained fighter. It's just weird. And they must have waited for each other to put on their gloves and stuff just so they can duke it out. Very weird. I'm not a boxer or have a family of boxing, so it was weird. Hey everybody, says Keisha. Hey, what's going on? I'm Sergio. Sergio says Keisha. Look, that's this whole entire issue. We're gonna see how it concludes. We're gonna see about how the family that was Creed, that was broken, kind of reunites. If you guys watched Creed 3 at the funeral, and I won't say if you didn't see it, I didn't see the family kind of together. I didn't see Sylvester Stallone's character in there too. So the Creed funeral was lacking. And if the unity that they make in this comic book does stand when we reach issue number 5, if this book does show that the Creed family kind of came together, that funeral is going to look a lot more weirder now that I think of it. The funeral showed them separate, showed them with no interest in each other. I'm going to think about that funeral differently. Okay, that's been chill, and that's been the Creed talk. You know what else we're going to talk about now? Elle's favorite topic. It's got something to do with Creed, sort of, because Michael B. Jordan was part of this franchise. And, in a way, Dame Anderson was part of this franchise also. Everyone, the topic here, well, it's related to Creed again, because these characters, you see the melanation in their skin tone, and how there's sort of an underrepresentation of comics and heroes and people who look like this and who stay like this. I'm not talking about those race swap castings, but there's just we're lacking a lot of that. And what we do need to do is have more in top positions, and I can't think of an even more top position than Black Panther. That's right, everybody. The Black Panther. He says, I'm here only for this recast conversation. Yeah. Unfortunately, the actor who plays the Black Panther, a character who's been alive for a really long time. If we go back in time, if we go back to, well, I used to have it readily available here. Fantastic Four, issue number 52. If we go back to this comic, we can see that this legendary character existed prior to Chadwick Boseman's birth even. Now, the actor died, and that did not mean that the character needed to end. T'Challa does need to be recast for representative reasons. He's not just a representation. He's the best one that's ever happened in cinema. Think of a character Denzel Washington has played, or Michael B. Jordan has played, or Will Smith has played, or Eddie Murphy has played. Think of a character played by Jamie Foxx or Cuba Gooding Jr. Think of a character that's been played by Halle Berry. Think of a character that's been played by Haley Bailey that's been black. And that's actually hit the heights that the Black Panther has. There isn't one that exists. And we can't let that go. We do need to advocate for the return of that character, however they do it. I didn't see a body in Wakanda Forever. I didn't see it. Did you see it? That character does need to continue because there's not enough. There's not enough, and as well as there's so much ground and black and glass ceilings that Black Panther covered, that T'Challa covered. That why do we gotta reset with a brand new stand-in character here? Enjoy his sister, and then here comes the T'Child. Enjoy him also. What are we doing here? We do need to return to the king, the actual king, who's actually top tier. Yeah, I'm reading Creed, and part maybe mostly the reason why I'm enjoying this Creed stuff is because the way that the lead character looks. I don't necessarily care about the female male stuff. That's very divisive, and I hate when people get into that, the nitty gritty. It's his daughter. It's Amara Creed. It's a superhero or a protagonist in comics who I want to be successful in, and so I'm supporting it. And I don't think that they have a ceiling. I think that if this comic sells well, then Michael B. Jordan's gonna be like, all right, fine, let's turn this into a movie. I saw that the comic book was able to retain a reading audience, and let's see what we can get. Let's make the maximum amount of impact with these progressive moves, and I'm supportive of that. And I see this as like an investment in some future films in the Creed franchise continuing, instead of it going from Rocky Balboa, our Italian friend, which we love our Italians and everything that they've got, and then we got this Adonis Creed. And I don't want it to go to that Guerrero family or another family that we were introduced to in Creed and we can spin off to. Let's keep it in the family. Let's keep it with Amara and kind of have, we could have Creed 4. There's no reason why Creed 4 wouldn't be called Amara or Creed 5 or whatever they do with her. I see the value in it. Wakanda Whatever is the best MCU Phase 4 film. Shut up. Hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use one of your sound bites against you. Wakanda Forever was the best. It was great.
Oh my God! Wow!
Terrific! I can't believe it, Sergio, if you want me to continue this stream for any longer, because I know you don't usually go 28 minutes. I don't usually go longer. If you want me to go longer, you will say nice things. T'Challa, the character that is T'Challa, the character is very important, and for that reason alone. If you think it's insensitive, if you're like, oh, look, what about Chadwick Boseman? You do got to separate the character from the actor and recognize that they're different things. If it helps, there's videos of Chadwick Boseman's brother, Derek Boseman, saying stuff like, we do need to recast. He's not the same. T'Challa is not Chadwick. Chad isn't T'Challa. The character's too important. This has been said by family members that helped raise Chadwick Boseman and spent a lot of time and know him more than anything else. Yo, out of pocket, you can't use my own sound bites against me. I can install my own sound bites and use those against you if that helps also. It's not going to take too long to do that. I just got to find them and I can be like, I can use them against you also. Look, I'll use one right now that I've loaded and it's processing as we speak and I'm trying to stall.
This isn't about you.
Oh, it's not about you, Sergio. You can have that. I have that in my repertoire. Professional YouTuber out here. Think I don't know StreamYard? Get out of here. This is not about you. This is about T'Challa and how he needs to be recast. And all of your little Talokanesians need to be wiped out by the king. If that was the real T'Challa, they wouldn't have stood a chance. They wouldn't have invaded Wakanda. You little Mesoamerican Talokanesians. Yeah, you know my thoughts on that. I don't want to preach too much because I have a lot of videos that talk about it, but let's not look at it from, oh, this is insensitive to Chadwick. That man is not a roadblock to progression. Actually, what he was doing was playing his part to get this character that exists here that pops up early in a Fantastic Four and kind of whoops them. His goal was trying to get this character into that household name status and very popular and elevate. Just because he died, if you think that he was on his deathbed saying, and nobody else better play that character, you would be insulting him. Actually, you'd be dishonoring him. This guy. I feel strongly about that topic. You know what else I feel strongly about? Jonathan Majors. Okay, this may be news to you, everybody, but Jonathan Majors was arrested back on March 25th. We know him from Creed. We know him from playing Kang the Conqueror. And there's other things, if you guys watch Lovecraft Country. He's been a part of some other, I think he was in The Five Bloods also. So a movie with Chadwick Boseman. So this Jonathan Majors guy doing great stuff. A lot of roles he lost because he was arrested. And unfortunately, cops are going to arrest people who don't deserve to be arrested all the time. That is what happened. He is claiming that. He says that I was the one who dialed 911 and I was looking to get the woman who I was associated with. I was looking to get her medical attention. This dude gets arrested and he loses out all of these endorsements and everything that goes south for Jonathan Majors. It turns out that there's actually footage of the woman that he put his hands on. She's actually at the club enjoying drinks and her finger's fine, and she's got her hand on her phone and her fingers are okay. And then you can see her going up to the penthouse suite that Jonathan Majors owns. She had the key over there and she's all fine. And it's only the morning after where we get to see that, the police show up and everything. Turns out this guy has text messages that say she's been mixing drugs. I probably shouldn't say words like drugs. Sorry, Sergio. Keep this PG and family friendly. But it turns out that this guy's going to court. He gets court dates and the district attorney is not trying to do him any justice. And he's saying, look, I was not the one putting hands on her. She was putting hands on me. He goes to a police precinct. He shows the video footage of her face. They show you that there's a witness inside the car that allegedly that's where he put hands on her. Actually, the driver, the chauffeur, can say she put hands on him. And he has all this evidence to get her arrested. What happens? The district attorney says, nope, I'm pressing this charge and you're not going to arrest her. They deactivated the incident card, the iCard that was out to get her arrested. Look, she's out in England right now because she is a Brit. That's where she lives, and she has not returned. There was a court date that was happening on September 3rd, and on September 3rd, I said September, on August 3rd, she didn't show up. She didn't come. They wanted to try. They were like, yo, let's go. Let's do the case. Let's prove my innocence. Hurry up. And the prosecution was like, oh, we got to delay it. So if you ever hear, oh, Jonathan Majors puts hands on women, this and that, don't give that any attention. This is a story of the police coercing a woman to say some words that incriminated Jonathan Majors. This is a case that had Jonathan Majors and the media covering him put out articles about these anonymous women who also can vouch for the same thing, but they're all anonymous. And a case of Variety and these articles that besmirch him and talent representations that are supposed to be defending you, but the firms actually don't stick with you and get rid of you. This is a slanderous campaign against him because when he shows up to court and he's ready to defend himself, they don't show up. So now things have been delayed and it'll be on October 6th now, or September 6th now, which will be the next court date. That's only a week from now. But if you ever think about Jonathan Majors, please don't attach a negative light to him. Remember his innocence, presume that, because that's what you should do for everybody, especially when there's no video footage or anything against him. There's only a video footage proving that the woman was perfectly unharmed at the time that the incident and that the fighting was supposedly supposed to happen. There's more videos on that on my YouTube channel, Chillmonger, but that since we're talking about Creed and that's sort of associated with this topic, I thought I'd bring it up. Moon Knight, Black Panther, Blade, Green Lantern. Same thing happened with Spartacus. The lead actor was replaced in season 3 when he was diagnosed with cancer. A lot of that happens. The recastings are so common. When you think about Albus Dumbledore from the Harry Potter film franchise, 2 movies with one actor, the rest were with another because unfortunately the actor died. Within Marvel itself, Thunderbolt Ross has been recast. Actually, Harrison Ford is playing him of all reasons, and the actor died. They recast it really quickly. It didn't even take 5 months. It happens, man. The Witcher, people get recast. It's not like only one person can play Superman. Superman is going to be a reoccurring character no matter what. They'd rather have 3 Batmen in the span of 3 years. Literally. Pattinson, Clooney, and Michael Keaton. 3 Batman in 3 years. Then go without a Batman because the actor and the role are the same. It was an emotional decision that they made and under distress. That's understandable. I can understand emotions, but it was the wrong decision. And it's racially regressing is the word I was looking for. I think there's a lot of inspiration that could be provided from the Black Panther franchise that the Creed franchise can't do. And that the Equalizer, the movie that's out right now, there's a lot of franchises that can't accomplish what Black Panther can. And we do need the Black Panther back. Stopped collecting when Joshua Williamson's run ended. I need to check out The Void, Rivals, and Blade. Keisha, Spartacus was such a good series, but to be honest, I didn't feel the same with the new actor. Jeremy Adams' run was good. He brought back Wally, and he's the main Flash. His run is over, and Cysperia's run begins next month. 666. You're right, but I think after the season finale, where they slaughtered everyone in Batiatus' home, it went downhill. I don't know what you're referencing. Is that Witcher? There's some stuff that's happening in comic book world where it looks like the prices are going to increase. I wouldn't be so supportive of that. I'm someone who, I spend my $4 on the comics I think are important enough to spend money on, like for example, this static comic book, and I'll get every now and again I'll go get the facsimile issues, like when Hulk fought Wolverine. I'm not the comic book head that maybe a lot of you people right now, are, but the $4 price point, it's pretty pricey when you think about how you want to stick around for a 12-issue run. 12 times 4 is $48. Quick maths. $48 you're spending on a story, and you can read that in the span of an hour and a half. So a movie doesn't cost you $48, does it? But they're too pricey to raise the prices on comics. I'm worried that it'll stick, and I'm worried that the direction that they're going towards, they may have to do it as a way to keep in business. But unfortunately for everybody who enjoys this medium, we're gonna have to be more selective in what we choose. The prices for independents like Creed from Boom Studios and Dark Horse and IDW and Image and everyone else, yeah, it's different than Marvel and DC, but Marvel and DC do set the tone, and should they go up, so will everyone else. Unless you're Spawn, you'll take your sweet time and you'll stick to that $3 price point as long as you can if you're Spawn. The comic book industry is hurting in a way. If you're not in an independent, I don't know. If you're not independent and I don't know enough to say this, but I'll say it anyways. If you're a comic book writer, James Tynion, yeah, something's killing the children. Go, do your thing. Get your money on the side with DC, build your brand and make yourself popular, but that is your bread and butter right there. Every writer needs to be doing that, because one day this will implode, and there's not going to be warning signs, I don't think. Hey, a movie costs gas to get there, parking, tickets, popcorn. Are you kidding me? Figure dry, and that's an incredible comparison. Like, look at what we have to think about when we're spending money on a movie. That's true. It is pricey. I got to get back to set. Appreciate you holding things down, Chill. Oh, of course. I'll only go maybe an hour longer or less than that. I'm going to invite a guest who's an independent creator who I want to talk to. His name is Rosales Comics, and you can expect him in a bit. He's doing a live stream himself right now. And that's kind of how I'm going to end it. I'm going to ask him a whole lot of questions that I haven't gotten a chance to ask him about. So look out for that, everybody. Sending him the link right now. Actually, now that I think of it, somebody, guys, write more live chats. And what is your breaking point? What is the exit point for you? What you won't be spending on comic books anymore after it reaches what? Because $4 is my breaking point. I believe in these characters that I believe in. Like, I'd like to see Kamala Khan be more higher profile. And so everything they're doing with her becoming a mutant just to match the movies and the TV shows, just to match the MCU. Okay, fine. I'll pay my money. I'll drop money to watch Kamala Khan be a little bit more significant. And hopefully with the X-Men brand, that does keep her in the peripheral vision of some X-Men fans, which is a huge fan base. We know that the X-Men are able to support like 10 comic books, honestly. Maybe not all 10 are doing well, and some are limited series that are doomed to fail. So I'll say they can support 5 comic books, and then there's like 5 others that are just gonna phase out and not be successful. Kamala Khan could use that little rub that you would get from being attached to the X-Men brand, okay? That also does keep her at a limit, because she's not going to be more popular than Cyclops and Jean Grey and Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Colossus, and I don't see her surpassing characters like Professor X and Magneto. I don't see her getting past X-23. I do see that she's not going to be an A-lister while she's in the comic of the X-Men, especially when you consider who's writing her, and it's not Al Ewing and it's not Kieran Gillen. So we know that there's a restriction on how hot she can get. she's still an important enough character that I want to support, and I want to make sure that her venture into the New Mutants maybe keeps her as a New Mutant, kicking it with Sunspot and Cannonball. Comics are in catch-22. Prices go up with inflation and costs of other goods. But by how much, though? A whole $1? That's too much. In cost of other goods. Also, $4 to $5 has the same value now as prices in the past. Not really. If you look at the cost of inflation from when comics were 10 cents, like the old Fantastic Four ones I'm talking to you about, if you mathematically looked at it, it would be the comic book prices are way higher now. They don't match the rate of inflation. Prices increases, they look bad, especially when they're a $1 increase. You want to raise it by like a 25 cents or something like that, I would understand that. Or 29 cents, it wouldn't be 25. You know how it is. Everything's got to end at a 9 at the prices. He says, and the average comic book reader isn't worried about the value of $1 in different decades. We are now. And what's going to go? My food or my entertainment? What's going to go? My rent or the little comic thing that I bought? Comics can go, bro. Unless you have a fear of missing out. So a lot of the experimental buys that we have. So there's a new Spider-Man comic out called Spider-Boy. That's probably not going to be selling as well. Awesome. Chill is doing his scientific explanation of tiers of characters and writers as he perceives it. Nope, this is very not the way I perceive it. And it's more so about sales. The amount of attention that they grab, their impact, movies and stuff like that. So when I say that Miles Morales is here and Spider-Man is there, everyone knows what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one that gets reoccurring live action roles and grosses billions of dollars. And I'll say something about Miles Morales. And yeah, I'm putting them in tiers, but I'm also providing the reason for why they're in these different tiers. I definitely feel you about comic prices. That said, we should feel pretty lucky that comic shops are still a thing, as print media is a dinosaur. And these comic shops, the ones that I go to, they all got those Pokemon cards, and they've got these side hustles as well. You know, some of the statues and stuff. They're still around. You're right, and I think that because some other shops went down, that kind of concentrated the dollars into one shop. So if there's 10 on one street, which there's not 10 on one street, but if 5 of them go down, then you just go from the one comic shop you used to go, and you go, okay, well, that one's just a couple minutes more in the other direction. I'll start shopping there. That's how it happens for little corner stores and stuff. You just buy gum and Gatorade over here. Now that's down. You just walk a little bit longer to go find the other one. So that's maybe a reason why comic shops are still here, because the ones that went down early have the customer base have relocated to the ones that needed customers, or else they would have gone down. That doesn't apply in every city, but it would in mine. Flesh. What gets me is Marvel's tendency to charge a few more dollars for a #1 issue. If there's more pages, I'll take it. So if there's #1 issue and it's not a 20 comic book pages of art, 20 pages of art, and it's got 25, then I go, yeah, they're charging me an extra $1, but basically each $1 is 5 pages. Oh yeah, it's worthwhile. I'm not going to be mad at that, Flash. If Marvel has a tendency to charge you more, it is what it is. I like how this topic has got people talking to. Falcon, who you can see on this chart, is sitting clearly at A, but not the silver model. You're trying to make fun of me, but everything I'm saying to you is factual. There really are tiers. To pretend that the Incredible Hulk and Ms. Marvel are the same tier is lying to yourself. To pretend that Scott Summers Cyclops and the New Mutant that they just created a couple years ago, you're lying to yourself. Even the older Cable versus the kid version of Cable, you are lying to yourself if you're like, oh, this silly Chillmonger and his tiers. I'm telling you about these tiers. And I would love for the tiers that I recognize, I'd love for the top tier to be more inclusive of melanated characters. You know, that skin tone thing that a lot of people who've got that light pigmentation seem to dominate our media and our entertainment field. I'd like for them to have the top tier writers and artists, and to get the focus that the ones that do get the top tier writers and artists get. Are we going to pretend there's not a tier of writers and artists? Are we going to pretend that Donny Cates just writes anything anymore and Chip Zdarsky just does anything anymore? No, we can't do that. We do have to recognize that there are tiers. And when there's inequality, we got to call it out. And then when there is something that is not inequality, but something that's actually progressive and forward, we got to celebrate it. Partly, this Creed comic book kind of breakdown that I was doing in the first 20 minutes of this stream highlights that. And what we could get from this, there's no glass ceiling. The guys who write Creed at Boom Studios and the guys who are directly involved, the Michael B. Jordans of the world, these guys over here, they're not going to say, oh, this comic sold well, let's find out a way to make this character rub off on Spider-Man. They're not going to do that. They're going to actually bring things forward. And I'm very in line with that mentality. I agree on the tiers. That's TJ. It feels like readers and fans, they don't want characters to move up tiers. That's another thing that I don't like. I think that readers are less open to this tier stuff of characters moving up. It's going to be hard to get somebody that popular. I think with the Deadpool, he wasn't Deadpool. The movie did help that, and so we got Deadpool a little bit more higher profile than he usually would have been from his inception. And movies can't do that, so that happened with Ms. Marvel. She's going to be in the MCU, and she'll be in a film in the MCU coming up in November, and maybe that'll elevate her and kind of like reintroduce her to the comic book audience. And then once that's happening, and look, Kamala Khan sells and she moves units, let's start treating her the same way we start treating Doctor Strange and Daredevil and the Guardians of the Galaxy. And let's start treating her now like the way that we treat Captain America and Thor. And now let's start treating her the way we treat Hulk and Iron Man and the X-Men and Amazing Spider-Man. Like, there's levels to this. On a side note about Kamala, I give props for them hiring Iman Vellani, who was basically just a Marvel fangirl. I kind of give them props for that too. And I also recognize that, let's be real, they weren't going to get those high, that Jerry Duggan, the guys who they really respect, Jonathan Hickman, wasn't going to write this comic. So yeah, I'll take Iman Vellani over, Stephanie Williams, or I'm not going to insult anymore. I don't mean to take shots at any personal, I'm representing House of Nerds here. I just don't want that to be clipped. But there's definitely like tiers of writers who they're not giving, who Ms. Marvel doesn't get to have. And so let's call it out figure drawing. Yeah, Iman Vellani, great. Marvel fangirl. Maybe the publicity that she'll be able to garner for this comic book will result in more sales. It's true some writers aren't allowed to go to the good imagination minds. Hickman won't let them. I mean, I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. I think I'm about done this topic, though. Just about different characters needing higher profile, the top tier needing some inclusion, because I don't care that Marvel does a February book about Black history and look how progressive we are. I read that book of Black history book that they've got every February, and I go, okay, Marvel's voices, where is Photon? Where is the ongoing series for Luke Cage? I mean, they've got this new limited thing that's happening for 3 issues called Gang War. But where's Luke Cage on a regular basis with Misty Knight? And where's Falcon? Why is he using the name Captain America when he could be using his own name and elevating that? Do you guys think that him calling himself Captain America is elevation? I don't. Do we think Black Panther, if he should go by the name Iron Man? Because, he's got a metallic suit too. What? He's Iron Man, right? To all my friends who say, Miles Morales is Spider-Man. Is Black Panther Iron Man? Is he not good enough to be an Iron Man? You see how stupid that is? It's much better to have your own recognition, your own brand, your own self-identity that you don't have to share, that you don't have to go, oh, that one afterwards. The Falcon thing, becoming Captain America, I don't really recognize that change. He is Sam Wilson Falcon, no matter what the comic books say. And Miles Morales would benefit greatly from having a unique identity who we can hear and have instant recognizability with the brand. Not taking shots. I wasn't taking shots, but it also wasn't a pleasant thing to say, right? It wasn't a pleasant thing to say either. Just saying that there's the J. Michael Straczynskis of the world, and there's not. Ooh, I sparked a comment from Comics R Us. It says, Miles Morales is slowly becoming the main Spider-Man, and that's a good thing. Miles Morales, how do I say this without insulting you? Okay, what is happening to make him slowly become the main Spider-Man? There's a new Spider-Man video game, the old one that came out from Insomniac. And then there was a Miles Morales game, which they kind of used the same city and everything and reskinned it. And then the new Spider-Man game from Insomniac, the studio that made the first two that I mentioned, that's called Spider-Man 2. So the Miles game existed, but numerically, the first game, I wasn't giving you the finger. Numerically, the first game was Spider-Man. The Miles game happens. Spider-Man 2 happens. You see the disrespect there? What is slowly happening? Is it the cartoon, the animated movies that Sony, the studio that owns Spider-Man rights, goes, yeah, we got rights to this Spider-Man thing. Okay, how do we do something without having Marvel Studios involve themselves with us? Oh, okay, there's a Miles Morales who's also under the Spider-Man banner. We own film rights to that. Boom, let's do that. You think that character, if Marvel did own Spider-Man, you think that they would have done that? No, that was thankfully, for the character that is Miles. He gets this publicity because Sony, the studio, owns that. I don't know what you mean here. You're saying Miles Morales is slowly becoming the main Spider-Man. Is Tom Holland Spider-Man stopping? Because no matter what's happening here with this movie that grossed $600 million across the Spider-Verse, great job. $1.9 billion. Why are we pretending like this? It's slowly, he's getting there. He can do it. I don't want that. I'd like for Miles Morales to slowly elevate. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'd like his name to be something better. Like just a unique name that isn't Spider-Man. Like Cindy Moon has the name Silk. That's cool. We say Silk, we know who we're talking about. We don't say Spider-Man number 4, So let me know oh, there you are. He said, oh, you're applying to figure drawing. Let me read figure. When Miles Morales was new, I recall a lot of people proclaiming he's not my Spider-Man. Now, if those people have hateful thoughts and they want to say, oh, my Spider-Man, that's their reason for why they're doing it, that's fine with them. Their reasons are not my reasons for why I prefer Miles to have his own unique identity and for him to continue. While he is gaining popularity and people are learning who Miles is, when we talk about him, we don't say Spider-Man, we say Miles Morales, don't we? Because he's this different thing. He's better off having his own name. I'm not saying black isn't as good as white. That's not what Chillmonger is saying to you guys. He's saying that owning your own brand is better than not, and being secondary within your own franchise is worse than being primary. That's what I'm saying. And if you think that he's slowly becoming the main Spider-Man, I want to hear more. I wasn't giving you the finger. I was just saying, like, Spider-Man 1, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 3, and then I did that. Yes, but now you have a lot of brown and black kids say, he is my Spider-Man. That's a win. Now comics are us. What if the same children that you're recognizing from the Afro-Latino Brooklyn community and globally worldwide, what if the same children, they weren't saying, he is my Spider-Man? What if they were saying, he is my favorite superhero? Like some people who are going to tell you, Static is my Spider-Man, or Blue Beetle is my Spider-Man, and I think they'll understand that. I think they'll understand what they're going for. Some people say, Ms. Marvel, that's my Spider-Man. Well, you grew up with her as a teenager and you're reading these. You didn't have the luxury of being a kid in the 70s, 60s reading Spider-Man. So you could still say the same thing with Miles. Yeah, Miles, that's my Spider-Man, and he'd have his own name. Do you disagree with the name stuff? Comics are us? Let me know, because I've been addressing you for like 3 minutes now, and I would like for you to write a chat to me, because I don't see how he's becoming the main. It makes it sound like the Miles train is rolling and grading in progression, but the Peter Parker Spider-Man isn't, and it's going down or something. No, I'd say the Peter Parker Spider-Man is very successful, more successful than it's ever been. So he's not gaining ground. He's not becoming the main Spider-Man. And I wouldn't want for black representation to come at the expense of white. That's not the answer to things. When Miles Morales was, I read that. Here we go. Figure. Eventually, Into the Spider-Verse came out, and people were less outwardly whiny about him. Also, Across Spider-Verse is so good. Great movie, yeah. Shut up about giving him facts. None of that is facts. I agree. It's weird that someone would see something they like and then adopt the name, right? Killmonger. Sorry, I mean Chillmonger. I agree. It's weird that someone would see something they like and then adopt the name, right? I think you're trying to say that I'm calling myself Chillmonger because of the character Killmonger. Your point would make sense if I called myself Killmonger. If my thing was Killmonger and I told you guys that I call myself Killmonger based off of Eric Killmonger. If I said that, so let me change the name. Here, I'll make you right, okay? Where's the... How do you change your name on this thing? Just for you. Capital K. And I hit the letter H by accident. Here we go. Killmonger. So now your comment makes sense. Now I'm doing something stupid that I would disagree with, where I would call myself Killmonger after somebody rather than having my own brand. Rather than when people tweet and they say something about me and they use the word Killmonger, people will read that and go like, what? Oh, that Killmonger. See, now I'm doing something stupid. And you're right. This would be terribly stupid, aggressively relaxing. Crazy. Let me read a couple more of these things, okay? Rosales Comics is in the building. Rosales, we were just chit-chatting about Creed, about this independent comic. We kind of talked about recasting T'Challa, of course, you know, my bread and butter, Jonathan Majors and his legal woes. And we started talking about representation and why it's important to have characters who do represent their likeness and they're not the secondary one within their franchise. I'm going to read a couple more of these. Sorry to skip everyone else's, but I want to jump straight to Comics R Us. If the name change, it would make things confusing, maybe. No, it would make things less confusing because we'll never have to guess which Spider-Man, especially if you put it in the movie. If the final scene of the Across the Spider-Verse film has the name change then where he goes, nah, I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to do my own thing. Call me Sticky. Pretend Sticky was a good name. I thought of something spider related. Okay, I'm Sticky Web or Kid Arachnid they used in the cartoon. If they said something like that and the movie had it, everyone sees the movie. So they could execute a seamless name change and we could all go, wow, what about that? He's deciding to identify with himself. That's really coming out of his shell. And everyone who's celebrating how Miles Morales is Spider-Man, they're all going to say, no, he's his own character. That's much better. Because you're NPCs, to quote internet culture. He says change it would make things confusing maybe. Why not leave him as the Spider-Man? Where things are headed anyway? I have to ask you, what's happening? Is Tom Holland, something happened to him? the main Spider-Man is losing ground? Is the video game that's coming out that Insomniac is doing, the one that's called Spider-Man 2, is that not happening all of a sudden? I don't know. Facts about kids recognizing what they like compared to the semantics of it all. AR, it didn't hurt as bad as it sounded. I did have to do push-ups for going to see medical. Sorry. To your point, Shul, a lot of kids, including my nephews and nieces, already saying Miles is their favorite superhero, and that's a beautiful thing. Okay, we can agree that we found common ground there. This is badass night. Not saying a name change would be bad. Okay, but I don't see a major upside to that. I do, just the instant recognition. So you can see I changed my name to Killmonger Rosales.
Oh yeah, I just now noticed it as you pointed it out.
Yeah, I was trying to make a point here about how it's better to have your own name. So Rosales Comics, my man here, someone I've been communicating with this last year. I don't know too much about you, but I do know you're an independent comic book creator. This place that we're at right now, this House of Nerd show, it's different, you know. The stars are purpler, and it's oh yeah. So we specialize here at the independent level. Warren's in the building also. Hello, Warren. Tell us about your journey within the comic book space and give us the 60-second introduction.
60-second introduction is that I was exposed to the comics industry back in the 80s. We used to have something called back then, the information superhighway. Now it's known as the internet. So that's how long ago it was. And I fell out of that, went on to do different things. I've been a magician. I've been a comedian. I've made films. I've done animations. And just recently, here in the past couple of years, I've decided to go back to comic books. And comic books is where, my heart lives. And so I decided I was going to create my own comic book universe. And I started off by introducing everybody to a comic book called My Frankenstein. Now, it's a retelling and a rejiggering of the Mary Shelley book where it addresses everything that happened in the book as historical in this context, but not necessarily accurate. You get a few rungs down by the time Mary Shelley gets to the story. So her versions of what happened are not exactly what actually happened. In the story, I set the character up that was the Frankenstein back then, who becomes the Frankenstein, who was the monster back then, becoming the doctor in modern days. So he is the Dr. Frankenstein, and he creates his own monster by trying to save a woman that he loves by the means that made him the monster in the first place. Not getting too deep into the minutia and the details of it all, but they are the parents or the foundation of where all of the superhero powered people come from, as they were the seed for that. So all powers lead back to them, good or bad. All heroes lead back to them, unless they're crime fighting heroes that don't you have any powers.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
this is this is a cover of issue 4, because it was a 4-issue limited series that was available on globalcomics.com. It still is. And here we have the main characters. And that last episode there is called Family, because it all comes to a head as the entire family comes together to hash out their differences. Um,
So Frankenstein is in public domain, right?
yes, yes, the Frankenstein story is in public domain, and you can do what you want with it. And that's what I did. I did what I wanted with it. I used it to seed everything from that point on, because uh, where is Sergio? Oh, you know what? We are Sergio
Yeah.
and Marquelon. We've just been relabeled. So,
So Sergio Marklin regularly here at House of Nerd Show. You can catch the beginning of the stream to see me explain things more, but I'm just a fill-in. They'll be back when they're back, and that's that. And they know it's a regular time slot. When people have a show, they want to keep it. They want to keep it so. As a friend of Sergio, as a friend, Chillmonger is here to save the day. Salute Perp just subbed up, and I appreciate that. A, Kitty's in place. B, so your comic book that you came out with, My Frankenstein, that's the one you've been pushing the most, and the one that you've been mostly behind. Is there a reason for that?
yeah, because it's the introduction to everything. It's the gateway to all of this. This particular page right there shows you that their children throughout the generations took on different forms of heroism, and how they disguised themselves so that they wouldn't be putting everybody else in danger. Um, they went from being the heroes of legend to the comic book styled heroes uh, in the golden era, the silver era, and the modern era. And these two characters that you see in front of you are direct descendants of the two. They are the only two surviving children that spawned the rest of them. And so they go to find their father, who, well, there it is. So,
Hey, that
um,
probably shouldn't have been here. Tell me, what are the biggest obstacles that came with the independent life? Like, you know what you want to do, you have a dream. Thankfully, you can draw, right? Like, thankfully, you don't have the common, everyone's, the financial woes. But what were the financial woes? What were the other woes that did happen when it comes to publishing, when it comes to online stuff, when it comes to marketing? What are the struggles?
well, if you don't have finances, you don't have financial woes. Okay, there's one thing right there. So I was able to do the writing, the inking, the lettering, the penciling, the coloring in all myself, because I couldn't afford to hire anybody to do it. And I'm not going to ask people to do things on spec. I'm not going to ask somebody to come in here and profit share on something that may or may not profit. I'm not going to do that sort of thing.
Same
Um,
here with my comic project that I've told you about. I don't talk about it much because we're years from it happening, but like
mhm.
it's work for hire. Don't there's no like mathematics that we're gonna do. If this many sell, if that many sell, it's work for hire. I'm paying, and yeah, it sucks, but
Yes.
it is what it is.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is getting it out there and getting it to people. By the time I got to a point where I was going to release the limited series, and I released them monthly, when for 4 months straight when they first came out, I had thought about doing it in a bunch of different ways, and the way that I was going to go initially got bought up by another company, and they screwed everything up. Not naming any names, but I wound up having to go somewhere else, and
I think
now
people
it's
will figure it out. And what year was it when this comic was supposed to come out? With the company bought the other company?
I think I would have to ask, my
Fine.
smart device,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what year that was.
Okay,
I'm sure my smart device would know.
it's all good.
Um,
We
it's all good.
we
So,
get the point though. We get it, and when things are not going to turn out the way that you want them to turn out at all. Good on you for having the gusto to create your own comic.
well, thank you, Comics RS. Thank you.
You had a gusto.
I released through Global Comics because they allowed me to not have to pay anything up front to be out there, and they were developing a system where eventually it would come to print on demand. So if somebody wanted to purchase it outright, they could do that. Right now, you can download the individual files for about $1.99, or I have for sale on my website the graphic novel version of it, of My Frankenstein. Um, I'm doing the Avenger. I'm retouching that up. It's a public domain comic book.
The
And so,
Avenger? Are you sure about that?
yes,
Oh, Avengers with an S. That would be the problematic word, huh?
yes. This is one
Man,
person,
nah,
one
that's
guy.
cheap. That's not right. No, I don't approve of this.
So what I did was when I listed it as the Red Avenger because he wears red. Okay, but the original public domain comic book said the Avenger. So as long as that here's where some people are running into trouble. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a little fellow named Eric July, and he's got a comic book called *𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. That's the title of his comic book.
I
And
just heard about this. There's
he's
like a
being
Christian
sued
group.
by a Christian group that is titled *𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, but it's they've got the little dots there because it's an acronym. It's not just the full name.
I was told it was. I was told the full name is the one that's trademarked. While it is an acronym for what it stands for, when they were doing the trademark, they just got the 4 letters without the symbols inside. Or the
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, you learn something new every day.
But that's just what I heard, and I didn't look into it. Sorry.
Now,
Say what you were going to say, anyways, as if what I didn't say existed. Just tell us.
we know. Ooh, better lighting. We know that when it comes to titles, there can be lawsuits. Marvel did it with DC, and that's why Shazam is called Shazam. It's not called Captain Marvel. Um, and we also know as wrestling fans that the WWE lost tremendously to the World Wildlife Foundation, which has nothing to do with wrestling. And we also know that trademarks are specific to different items, different things, and different categories and whatnot. It still didn't matter. WWE lost WWF, and they had to blur that out on all of their all of their historical videos and things like that because they no longer owned the copyright or the trademark for that particular thing. So, a simple title change could make all the difference in the world for *𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, because it could be whatever the title may be that fits, featuring *𝐬𝐭𝐚. And that would be featuring *𝐬𝐭𝐚 is no longer the title, but it lets everybody know who that is.
That's the trick? Featuring *𝐬𝐭𝐚?
Well, yeah, change the title. You change the title to the thing, and all of the reprints that come out would have to have that name change to it. And that increases the value of the ones that have gotten out there now, because now those are all collector's items. You can't reprint them anymore. Everything increases in value. The new thing comes out. It's now got all this brand new attention to it. There's ways to come out of this in the positive.
That's tricky. That's why you got to trademark your stuff before you come out with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless your character name is Bob, I'm sure you can't trademark that. But Star Wars, you know how they'll name a character some word, but it's got a Y instead of the letter I, just so that they can own the trademark for it.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think there's going to be some sort of settlement.
Yeah.
So if you pull that back up, you can see that I did some color correction, but I didn't want to remove the mystique or the pastiche of it all. But I enlarged it and did some work to it to make it more of what it is, as opposed to taking it and turning it into something else.
You got a really old school look here from these pages. It does read like something from the 60s.
It is. It's something from the 40s, actually. I did not redraw any of this. All of this is the original artwork. It's just slightly color corrected. You can see the age marks right there in the page.
Oh yeah, okay.
So it's the actual thing. It's 100%. It's just enlarged and cleaned up slightly. but you don't want to get rid of everything, I think, when reproducing these old things. That particular comic book that I have up there is free. Okay, so I'm not selling it at all. It's available there, and that's probably why it's not available for download, because I'm not making any money off it. I just wanted to post this old stuff up there because let's preserve what we can.
Right. I hope this doesn't mess up ISOM. I've been trying to get a job writing in that universe. Yeah, yeah. Everything aggressively relaxing writes, you got to prepare for some sort of zinger or something.
Mm-hmm.
Rosales is spitting game. He is. Everybody likes a good subtitle too. What else can we ask you in this comic space that people will be able to benefit? People who are going to come back to the House of Nerd Show on Sunday and be like, let's give this a shot and let's watch the playback. What else can we add? What do you want people to know that maybe unknown in the independent space?
Well, there's lots of room, and it can be a little bit clannish. There's people that live and die over the Comicsgate banner
Community.
If you align yourself with Comicsgate, there's a lot of people that will alienate you because of it. If you don't align yourself with Comicsgate and refuse to take a side, you can also be alienated. So it's a little bit of a political minefield. I personally believe that comic books should be entertaining. You know, if don't think that there's not political stuff in my comic book, because there is. One of the main characters in the comic book happens to be a lesbian, okay, and she's being put upon by males. So that there's a situation happening there where it all just kind of comes to a head because of that. So I'm not afraid of moving into something as long as it pertains to the story itself. It all makes sense within the story. There's no hidden agenda in there at all, because there's also religious aspects in the story as well. I touch on angels and demons, and the angel of death is actually a character that winds up talking about how bored he is with his job. So
you go in, you got no restrictions and no reservations.
No, I mean everything's up in the air, everything's open. Just be ready to be true to yourself when you go to make your comic book, and be ready to tell the story that you want to tell, and be able to do your best to express it in the best possible way. I noticed when I first went through and did the four issues, there were some things that were missing. I had people ask me, well, what about this and what about that? And I said, you know what, you're right. And so in the graphic novel, I added about 4 extra pages here and there to cover the spots that were blind before, because, I'm human. I can make mistakes. I can leave stuff out. I can leave a dog outside who wants to come back in. I don't know if you can hear that. But, be who you are and tell your story. And don't let anybody talk you out of it. Definitely.
Man, that's the motivation for me, because I'm going to do what I'm going to do. However, I am doing it very carefully. I don't want to turn off audiences with, you said political stuff. I mean, being a lesbian isn't a political issue. It's been politicized, but so I'll use the word politicized. I don't want to touch on politicized themes. However, if my lead character is black, and so is the other, and so is the third and the fourth, then I've stepped in it just from their identity, because of the world we live in. Because some, even though, the skin tone of people may be lighter than mine, but darker than mine's, and also another one's darker than the same as mine, it's all under the same word. So what's he going for here? What's this agenda? Where's the underrepresentation of white characters in this friend? It's got the black comic book. I don't want that, but that I'm gonna step in it there. But for that reason, like for I'm succeeding in activism. How do I say that? That's not the right way to say it, because I don't believe I am. But in some sort of minds, I'm doing something. I am taking part in. I've chosen a side by doing that decision, just by making the characters look this way. I'm still not going to touch on things like elections and I don't know, viruses and whatnot, and things that everyone is really fixated on and have their opinions on. I'm going to stay away from lotteries. I'm going to stay away from, the nasty tropes and stuff, right? There's not going to be jail. There's not going to be fatherless families. There's going to be a lot of things I stay away from and kind of
Yeah.
stick to the story when
But
it comes to like
don't
my
let
lead.
don't let what you want to stay away from
Yeah.
dictate what happens to the story, because the characters themselves will want to tell a story. I found this out as a writer, that the characters will want to go in a specific direction because of their experiences that you put them through in writing the story. You
Mhm.
outline yourself like you're going to start off in Florida and you're going to wind up in California, and you choose your route to get there. And the character says, "No, I want to come up here now, or I want to dip a little further south." I mean, you'll still wind up in the same place, but they will tell you that they were going to get there in another way. And that's how my character got to the lesbian aspect of it. Is that this character has been reincarnated hundreds of times over the years as a punishment to another character. Okay, so that being an aspect of it, when it comes to the religion, is that God doesn't need your permission to use you in any kind of form or fashion. So this character has been able to recognize this woman every single time that she has been reincarnated and try to rekindle a love that he was told not to have as a fallen angel. Okay. And so that's his punishment until a certain point where she wasn't going to be reincarnated again. And in which point she was allowed to live a certain way. And she made the choice to be lesbian this time around. Now, she didn't know about any of the other times, because every time you're reincarnated in this particular instance, in this storyline, you don't remember anything from the past, which was for him very hard to convince her that they'd been in love in another lifetime. So by the time he finds her in the modern age, oh, yes, thank you. I love the shirt too. It was a gift from my wife. Uh, she has already found a relationship and her true love for this life, and it was another woman.
Yes.
So
But
that
what
makes
issue is that? When does this all get revealed in?
all of this. It's actually issue 1, so everything goes pretty quickly.
But that's what I'm trying to say.
I
Like
mean,
when you start
issue
with
2, issue 2.
oh well, issue 2. And still, I think my point still stands. That
Yeah.
I think my characters can do things that
Mhm.
are maybe things I don't want to endorse. Like let's say alcoholism, or let's say I don't know, murder, or things that I just don't like. I don't want them to start off that way. But if we get there and we can explain how we got from A to B, from California to Florida, I'll take it. A Matt Cave, I said that his shirt needs to have the pocket protector piece right there. It needs to be the green warp pipe. That's what it needed to be. Yeah. Ignore all of that chill. F art rules. Listen to your heart. Well, it's more so about representation and how I want to make it the most appealing, friendly to whether you're really conservative, comic skate types people, or whether you're really lefty McLefterson. I don't want to pick a side in that debate, because I think both of you political parties and you guys are fanatics of these corporation funded um, pawns, puppets. I don't care. Yes, get that pipe in there, lol. uh, yeah, you're muted, Rosales. Say that again.
I said I'll have to see what I can do about that, to get the pipe right on there.
That
Maybe I'll
sounded
have a
way too
little
dirty.
Mario figure sticking out of the pipe. That's now a clean picture, hopefully, in your mind.
Hey, man. That will conclude that little talk that we had. I think was productive. I think the T-shirt and everything is all in the House of Nerds show family of entertainment that we bring here, that Sergio likes to bring here, who I'm here on behalf of. And you're the Marquelon for today. If you want more of me, Chillmonger is where you can find me. Rosales he's got Rosales Comics. We were just chit chatting about wrestling and Ahsoka on his live stream, which he did before he hopped on to us here. So you can check him out also. This is the House of Nerds show, and we are Gonzo, fam, alai,